Next up, we have a wonderful speaker, Councillor Alex Paterson from Medway. I've known Alex several years now, and one of the things I really appreciate about Alex is not just all the great work he does in Medway, but the way he shouts about it. People know what they're doing in Medway, and that's a really great thing for our party and our movement. So Alex is going to talk to us today about the Love It or List It campaign. So Alex, over to you.
Thanks, Rosa. That's very kind. You're obviously one of my keen followers on social media, where I do try to shout about what we're doing here in Medway. I'm the Labour and Co-Operative councillor for Rochester West. I was elected at a by-election in 2018, and then in 2019, after our all elections returned 21 Labour and Co-Operative councillors, we became a Labour and Co-Operative group, and so we're really pleased that we are able to put cooperative values into action. I'm going to continue the watery theme, but a little bit downstream from Emma, because in the Medway estuary, the river is actually something that we really celebrate. It's a positive thing, because the Chatham Docks is worth £258 million every year to our local economy. It employs 800 people directly. It employs around 1,500 people in total in ancillary industries, but it's actually at risk of closure. Now, just to be clear, and I realise that there's already confusion in hearing a Glaswegian who's a councillor in Rochester talking about Chatham Docks, which is actually in Gillingham. But this is not the historic dockyard. This is the remaining working third of the Chatham Naval Dockyard that was built in 1567, the birthplace of HMS Victory, and closed by Thatcher in 1984, at which point a third of it was carved off to become the tourist attraction, which is the fantastic historic dockyard Chatham. Another third for housing, another third for the working Chatham Docks area. Now, this is a thriving piece of Medway industry, and its worth is demonstrated most recently in the Crossrail project in London, where we actually benefited from building a factory to make 100,000 concrete sections to line the tunnels in the eastern part of the Crossrail project. And the beauty of building them in Medway was they could be floated down by barge along the Medway, along the Thames to Canning Town, and keeping freight traffic off the road. So this is not just a dockyard which has a great history. It's got a great future, but it's at risk because of two competing issues. One, that Peel Ports, the owner, want to close it in 2025 and turn it over to housing and mixed commercial use. But they can't do that yet because it's not been designated as such. It's currently designated for employment and port operations only. The catch is that Medway Council has not put in place a new local plan since 2003. Now, that's pretty farcical in any event, but when you consider the fact they've had a handsome majority on the council in all that time, it shows you just how divided they are about how we go about delivering the 28,000 homes which we have been given as our government target to build in 2037. And so the council is left to sort of decide which section of its voters it's going to upset, and it really hasn't come to any conclusions on that. Most recently, a couple of months back, we were meant to actually go to consultation on a draft local plan, which had to be pulled at the last minute because they realised they were going to be defeated by some troublesome backbenchers on it, combined with the Labour and Co-Operative group. So we're really no further forward, but what we do know from that draft local plan is that it was going to designate the area around Chatham Docks for housing and commercial use. So that mixed use designation would allow Peel Ports to go ahead with its plans to close by 2025. Now, there have been there's been a really healthy campaign against it, because these businesses are successful businesses. We've got businesses like ArcelorMittal, and we have a very active group called the Association of Chatham Docks Commercial Operators, and they've put together all sorts of fantastic glossy brochures like this one, which is highlighting the campaign against the closure. But the irony is that what may well be the undoing of Peel Ports is the Co-op Party's Love It List It campaign, because last week that same group, encouraged by Medway Labour and Co-Operative Group, put in an application to the council to list the Chatham Docks area as an asset of community value, which is something that, as James has highlighted in previous discussions, is something that is a provision under the Localism Act, which will allow a community group to designate an area as an asset of community value, and then in the event of a sell-off, gives them a sort of limited right to pull together a bid within 6 months to buy the asset themselves. Now, it's by no means a silver bullet, but it may well prove to be enough of a fly in the ointment that in order to get the local plan through, the council have to capitulate on this. And that's a fantastic example of cooperative campaigning in action, that despite the deep pockets of the people who are campaigning to save these jobs, that actually what may well prove to be the best thing that they can do is something which actually any group of 21 people or more can make that sort of application to the local council to have an asset listed. And it's something that, it can be applied in so many different circumstances. We've had sports centres and public golf courses designated in Medway. We've had pubs designated. In my own ward, the council designated half of the local museum to be sold off, and we didn't have such a designation, and there was a real fear that that asset was going to be bought by a notorious local nightclub owner and Tory donor, and because we managed to cause a stink about that, we ended up putting them off to such an extent that it ended up being bought by a local arts group, and that's now a great asset. But that was no thanks to the council, and it shows that you need to act before the issues develop, rather than waiting until everything has gone wrong and the asset is up for sale. So it's absolutely something that can be applied in different areas in different ways. It doesn't have to be about jobs. It can be a community centre. It can be a library building. It can be all sorts of things. It's something that I think cooperative councillors up and down the country could really make use of as a campaigning tool.
Thanks so much, Alex. As I said at the start, it's always wonderful to hear the work that's happening in Medway with your fantastic team there. You can see some more about the Love It or List It campaign on party.coop. So do take a look on the website if you're interested in finding out some more.